Hello everyone, a very happy Saturday. I am on for a Q&A today. I'm going to be answering your questions. All questions come from Patreon. If you're not already in the Patreon and you want to come and join us, all you need to do is drop a comment saying club and I'll send you a link to come and join us. I have a brand new streaming schedule that I want to tell you guys about, which I'm really excited about. I decided that I'm going to go live at specific times because quite a few of you guys were asking whether I could put times on the streams, because I appreciate it can be tricky to show up for the streams if you don't know when they're going to be. So originally what I was doing was I was just telling people in the club through our WhatsApp channel, right guys, I'm going live now. What I'm deciding to do instead is I'm going to go live 1 o'clock with inspirational content, chatting, Q&As, the chat side of things, and 9 p.m. I'm going to go live with music, and I'll be singing songs and telling stories and whatnot. So hopefully that's going to make it much easier. I'm going to drop more info onto social media later today with those times, and I'm going to put the time conversion. So let me know in the comments what time it is right now. I've got this as 1 o'clock. I'm in the UK, so obviously a lot of you guys are not in the UK. Let me know what time it is wherever you are. I figure 1 and 9 will be pretty good at the weekend because, you know, it's morning for you guys in the States. Today's going to be a Q&A. All questions are coming from the club. And let's get into it. So Cheryl was asking, have I ever worked with a voice coach? And the short answer is no. But what did happen for me is, for those of you who don't know, I actually began as a rapper and I began making beats and producing stuff. And so I didn't exactly have a formal training. My way of actually getting into singing was quite simply, I sang on a chorus of a track because I was rapping on this track and the singer who was going to show up didn't show up. And so I sang on the track and my friends all said, oh, you're a pretty good singer. And that's how I actually got into singing above all else. Obviously, I used to sing when I was a little kid, standing in the river, singing old Scottish folk songs. My mum can remember that. Maybe she was taking too much Tylenol, who knows? But, you know, I originally just got into singing because it was like a thing that needed to be done on a track I was doing. So it wasn't so much that I thought of myself as a singer. Initially, I just did things that I found interesting. And that's kind of how I found my way into music. Initially, it was just production, really. And singing came later. So then what happened for me is I joined a band accidentally that ended up being quite a big band in Scotland because I auditioned for them when I was 20 and I left the construction site to become a singer. So I didn't have any training of any kind. I was just making it up and making it work. But what did happen, Cheryl, for me is that when I was starting to coach people more, I started losing my voice a little bit. And the reason was because I didn't really have good breathing techniques. I didn't have good posture, and I was just really using my voice a lot. And as a parent, I'm sure those of you who are parents can relate to this, but you're constantly saying to the kid, like, hey, no, kid, no, stop it. Don't do that. Put that down. That's your job as a dad all the time. So I was doing that, and I was singing, and I was coaching, and it basically just fried my voice. And what I had to do then is I went and saw a vocal coach, and that was really useful because she gave me some exercises. And one of the ones that you might have seen is like you have a straw and you have a bottle with water and you have to blow the water and keep the bubbles consistent. And loads of the vocal coaching there was actually just learning. It's not about how much you use your voice. It's actually how you use your voice. So for me, learning breathing techniques really helped me a lot in terms of being able to use my voice more and be more active with my voice. Cheryl also asked, do you experiment with binaural beats for your meditation recordings? The reason why I got into making some binaural beats is because years ago I had a treatment called EMDR treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder that I had from an event that I experienced in my life when I was 20 years old. And EMDR is this treatment that they developed for people who had come out of the war and had post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a really interesting treatment. It was for Vietnam War veterans, and the way it was actually developed was a woman was sitting on a hill looking at a piece of grass moving like this, and she noticed that actually when her eyes moved and she was stimulating both sides of the brain, it allowed her to process trauma differently. So EMDR for me, it really helped me. It really changed my life. And what I noticed was that when I panned instruments in a mix, right, if you go and listen to old Beatles albums, you'll notice that maybe the drums are on one side, maybe the guitar's on another side. What I noticed for me was that when I listened to stuff and it was panned, I always felt better. And I did some research and I actually learned that when you're listening on one side to one thing and listening on another side to another thing, there's actually there's scientific evidence to prove that that can give a similar effect to EMDR, which I thought was so cool. So I started to make binaural beats where I kind of pan the sound to each side slightly differently. And that's kind of how I got into making binaural beats. So pretty cool. Rianne asks, from all questions are from the club. If you're not in the club and you want to join us, comment club. You get live replays, exclusive content, WhatsApp chats, $2 a month. It's how I support my family. If you want to join, comment club. Rianne asks, if you were given a chance to excel in sports and not music, would you do it? And what kind of sports? Well, I think of myself as a creative athlete. That's how I think of myself, in the sense that I'm creating at a very high level all the time. I'm doing, hours and hours of streaming. I'm doing concerts. I've built 10 albums for myself. I've built dozens and dozens of albums for other people. And I'm always creating a lot of high level results. And I think there's a lot of parallels between anyone doing anything at a high level. So I personally find all kinds of sports people very inspiring, and I find it very interesting to hear the different techniques that people use to be able to perform at a high level in any endeavor whatsoever, because there's a lot of parallels. The main parallel has to simply be an elite level requires an unbalanced amount of focus on particular things. So, for example, I don't cook, I don't clean, I don't engage in a lot of quote unquote normal social activities because I'm very, very dedicated to creating results in my business as a coach, as an artist. I'm dedicated to creativity. I'm dedicated to making albums, helping other people make albums, doing my social media, doing my content. I have very little time for anything else. And so sports people are really interesting examples of a similar thing. It's like your whole life is that and recovery. As for how I might approach sport, if I was going to do a sport, it would be boxing. And I do box on the side as a kind of hobby. I have a boxing coach and I do that as regularly as I can. Obviously, I don't have a ton of time to really do loads of extracurricular activities. But for me, the parallel actually between boxing and songwriting and the kind of stand-up side of what I do when I'm doing the gigs is that, it's you on your own, you have complete accountability. It is a team sport in the sense that you get coached and you learn, but it's not a team sport in the sense that you have 100% accountability. And I find that side of it quite a parallel between being an independent artist. Is a bit like being a boxer. You're out there, you have to be out there every single day doing your thing and taking complete responsibility and complete accountability for everything that you're doing. So if it was going to be a sport, it would be boxing. I love boxing. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful art. And it's actually, the cool thing is when you do a tiny bit of it and try to do it, you just learn it's so hard on every level. It's such a challenging sport, boxing, because everything's challenged all at once, everything, your psychology, your mind, your physicality, your stamina, everything. It is so, so hard to do. And I have so much respect for anyone who's doing it at any kind of level. Cheryl says, a beautiful comment, says her brother's comment on hearing my music was, my mum with Alzheimer's and Adam's music keeps her calm and soothes her fits. Wow, it's awesome. And I know there's so many amazing kind of studies about the power of music in terms of things like dementia, and people really just, to hear that, there's kids having a wee party on the street. Yeah, the power of music is amazing, isn't it? And that's lovely to hear. Thank you so much from Sarah. That was from Sarah. Sorry, that was not from Cheryl. Really appreciate that, Sarah. Sarah asks, if you could erase one human behavior from Earth, what would that be? Close-mindedness and hypocrisy. So if I could erase one thing, it would be the idea that people say I would never do that, because I think it's a very, very dangerous concept. That's how we get into times like Nazi Germany. That's how we get into any kind of blind spot, is when people say, I would never do that, because I think anyone in any really extreme circumstance could be pushed into a situation where they could find an aspect of themselves that they had no idea they were capable of. And I think the denial and the suppression of the shadow in life is an incredibly, incredibly dangerous thing. And we're seeing it right now because of the internet. There's so much polarity. There is so much black and white thinking, people saying, I would never do this, I always do that. That kind of generalization, I would delete, because real life's complicated. No one's all good or all bad. No one, nobody. It's not possible. And if you deny the badness in yourself, then the world becomes a very dangerous place. So that would be my answer there. And Janet has got a bunch of really amazing questions. Janet says, you have shared some unpopular opinions that get people talking and not always agreeing. And she does a smiley face emoji with a sweating one. That's my favorite emoji. How do you keep that balance between being real and not getting caught up in cancel culture? Well, my daughter loves me, and my girlfriend loves me, and my friends and family love me, and everyone who's supposed to love me loves me. So I'm good. I don't, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying anything that bad, but what I have experienced is, like, for example, when Charlie Kirk got shot, I put up a post and I said, that's an awful thing that happened to this man in front of his kids, and I lost 1,000 followers because of it. And this is exactly what I was saying before. When you decide that people are one thing because of one thing, that's a very dangerous way to live. And I just have to know that the people around me know who I am. And I, as someone who's very active online and has a big following, I've got 800,000 followers. So I just have to accept that there's no way that 800,000 people are going to know what I'm like. That's never going to happen. People who are in my club know who I am. People who actually listen to my music know who I am. The people who are in my actual life know who I am. So I don't get caught up in any of that I'm a big believer that if you put out what you believe and what you think is true, then the right people find you, the right opportunities find you, and you just have to be courageous and get yourself out there. Question 2 from Janet, where do you personally draw the line when you share something unpopular? That's a good question. I think the bottom line for me is I want to put good into the world. I do put out things that I know could be a little bit abrasive or a little bit charged or create a polarizing situation, but I'm not looking to put something in there that's really going to make anyone feel bad. I just want to put stuff out there that makes a difference. That's literally one of the biggest, apart from making money, that's one of the biggest reasons I started my club. Is I want to create a space on the internet that is just a good place where people can put good ideas and feel supported, and it's relatively positive place. And that's my mission in life. I'm a big believer in being the light that you needed when it was darkest. Number 3 from Janet: how do you decide which unpopular opinions are worth putting out there? Don't have a really amazing system for that, just whatever I feel in the moment. Janet asks, what's the biggest tug of war going on inside you right now? I would say the biggest tug of war is just getting the balance between being present online and also still being in the world, still performing in real life. I do a lot of concerts in Scotland, in little village halls and community centres, and I find that really nourishing and really good for my soul. So, I think that is probably the tug of war, is just finding that balance between the two. But I'm just learning. I'm learning as I go, and I'm enjoying the journey of learning. What does Adam Holmes fear the most? I choose to just be in a space of solution. I don't really, there's nothing that I would say I fear the most, because I really have a strong belief in my ability to adapt to all sorts of circumstances. And in many ways, most of the things that I feared the most have happened, and I've found a way to go through them. Like my dad died. He was my rock in a very chaotic family. He died. I was okay. I got through it. I've had really close friends who I loved who died. I've been rejected. I've been, publicly ridiculed. I have sort of failed spectacularly in public. I've been beaten up. I've lost all my money. I've experienced all the things that I've been afraid of, and I've found a way through it. So I don't live in that space. I don't live in a space of fear. I live in a space of possibility and progress and just forward momentum. You just got to keep moving. As a creator and a parent, do you ever feel torn between living in the moment and capturing it? Like time is slipping through your hands no matter how much you document? No, I don't. I'm very comfortable in the passing of time, because I know that there's going to be, life's 50-50, there's going to be a lot of good moments and there's going to be a lot of really, really hard moments all the time. And there's nothing that you can really do to change that ratio. And once I understood that concept, that life's half and half, I was able to just relax, because there's going to be things that are amazing about Rosa being a teenager and things that are going to be horrible about. And there's things that were horrible about her being 3 and amazing about her being 3 and 7 and whatever. So any age, it's just the same all the time. I don't need to catch it. I don't need to capture it. I'm not afraid of how I'm going to feel in the future. I'm going to miss things about her and it's going to be painful, but I'm not afraid of the pain. So, most people really are just trying not to feel pain. But I think if you just go, pain's a part of life, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to feel it. That's what makes life special. That's what makes life beautiful, is the pain. So, I'm not looking to avoid pain. I'm looking to avoid a life where I avoid pain. I think that's really what you want to avoid. Do you feel like capturing these moments with your child helps you heal some of the grief from losing your parent? I don't really think about that. What I do think about is like coming from abuse, coming from trauma. It's quite painful to raise a kid and see a kid have a very good upbringing, because it does highlight how hard it probably was for you, because you can see yourself in this little kid and you feel like, wow, I was so sensitive and I just had such a hard time, and it's made me the person I am, and I'm proud of the person I am. I like the person I am. There is part of you that thinks, wow, it's really sad, to think of kids out there not getting the care that they need. And in many ways, there's like some teachers in life teach you what to do. Some teachers teach you what not to do. And in many ways, a lot of the adults in my life when I was a kid just taught me how to not raise a kid. And so my relationship with my daughter now, I'm just really appreciative of it. And I feel so happy and so appreciative that she has like a normality that's so stable and secure. She does go between two houses, so she has to contend with that kind of instability, but that's done very skillfully by her. And she has a really amazing capacity to describe her feelings and process her feelings and be with her feelings. And I'm good at letting her have feelings. I think that's a lot of what being a parent is just letting them kind of have some feelings. So, it's all good. I wouldn't say that I feel it with connection to grief from my dad so much as more grief of the childhood I maybe never had. But also, again, that pain is like, that's what makes it special, to be able to give her a beautiful childhood, a stable childhood. It's a beautiful thing. Janet asks, by the way, guys, all questions come from the club. If you like these sessions and you like my music and you want more, there's live replays. There's private chat in our WhatsApp group. All the questions are coming from there today. And there's tons of content in there. There's movies, documentaries, loads more. If you want to come and join us, comment club. I'll send you a link to come and join us. Janet asks, if you ever had to collaborate with a reggaeton artist like Bad Bunny, would you consider it? How do you think your folk style would blend with that genre? Okay. Yes, 1,000,000%. I would love to. I made a reggae album. It's called Midnight Milk. You could go and listen to it. It's my third album that I made. And I love reggae music. And I love, to be honest, I see folk and reggae and blues and soul and funk and all that music. It's all just folk music, isn't it? But the rhythm of reggae, and reggae came from an old type of Jamaican music called mento music, which is kind of like calypso, and all those amazing cross rhythms came from that space, and it actually heavily influences the music that I make now. So yes, I kind of label myself folk and country just because you have to do something at the top of the funnel when your shop window to get people in. Because if you just go, I make noises, it's not enough. You have to say, I'm a country singer, I'm a folk singer. But if you actually go in and study and listen to the music I've created, you'll hear a lot of it definitely comes from that background. And as I mentioned before, I began my journey into music as a rapper. I'm making a lot of beats. And so there's a lot of rhythm in my stuff. And I love reggae music. My sister Ruth really loved reggae music. She used to burn incense and listen to reggae, and that was like a real formative experience for me. I'm just looking over at the floor there. There's like loads of incense ash everywhere in my house. I like incense. I like reggae. I used to like other stuff too that I don't anymore because I like to have a clear, clean mind. These days I have a couple of beers at night, but that's it. So that's my answer regarding reggae music. Janet also asked, what would you say to someone who feels torn between listening to AI-generated music and music created by a real human? I would just say do both. I'm a big believer in I think both is really, really cool. I think both is my mantra in life. I think many of us think, should we do one? Should we do the other? My recommendation is do both, try it, see what feels right. It's interesting to me. I listen to AI stuff to go, can I tell that's AI? I personally feel like I can, but have I listened to stuff that was AI and I didn't know and it got me. It's possible. I don't know. It is possible. I like to think that I'm able to feel something in it that gives me a clue as to whether it's actually AI or not, because obviously it's what I do. So, my hope, like everybody, is that what I'm able to offer the world is a bit more valuable than, AI and a robot. But also, I think it's interesting, and I think people would have been very afraid about the internet and how that would change music, and it did. And obviously, streaming is a big problem in many ways for musicians, but also the ability to share your music and get out there and share stuff for the world is like a really positive thing. So I think that these things are always both. So I'm curious about AI. I'm definitely up for using it for the things that are not super creative. Like I did it recently. I used it for my tax return. I was like, this is amazing. This is awesome. I don't want to do those jobs at all. So like using it for things which are boring and annoying. And there are things when you're making music that are boring and annoying. If you're doing certain things in a mix or editing certain clips or whatever, I'm all for using it for stuff like that. And hopefully it can free us up as artists and as musicians to make more stuff that we care about. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's Q&A. I want to invite you, if you have, to come and join us in the club. If you want to join the club, all you need to do is drop a comment saying club. I'm going to answer a couple of questions from people who are not in the club now. There's a great one from Billy there. And Billy asks, what's your best advice to start a career in singing without making too many financial risks? Well, I'd offer a couple of perspectives, Billy. The first perspective I would offer is the real risk in life is to reach the grave and not have tried all the things you want to do. So, tying in nicely to what we just chatted about there, the really cool thing now is that if you have an iPhone, or an Android phone or whatever it is that's allowing you to comment on this live, you've got everything that you need in your pocket to reach the world, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. So my best advice would be start posting videos on the internet, see if people like them, be willing to learn that you're not as good as you think and that people don't like certain stuff, and be open to the feedback. Get your stuff out there. Just be brave. And you don't need a lot to really make a big impact. If you bought £100 interface and £100 microphone and you focused on getting better at writing songs and sharing your songs and putting up videos on the internet, you could viably build a really good audience just doing that. That's the amazing thing about this time that we live in. You no longer need a record label. You no longer need a big fancy recording studio or anything like that. So it's a really, really cool time. Hello, everyone on Facebook. Listen, you guys, if you got any value out of today's episode, come and join us in the club. If you want to join, comment club. If you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the top comment or the description and come and join us. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your Saturday. I shall see you later on for some songs, and